And welcome to our monthly meeting of the Cobb County Board of Zoning Appeals, and I apologize for my rough voice today. Before we get started, let's please all stand if you can and pledge allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. I will now call our meeting to order. Please silence your cell phones. Thank you. And mine, and I have a new phone. I don't know how to do this. I think I'm just going to turn it off.
That's hilarious.
Sorry. At this, okay, for those of you who do not have a copy of the agenda, this group is not. Cornelius, can you cut this? If you don't have an agenda who are attending for the first time, we will concern ourselves with cases that are on consent. These are cases that have been reviewed by the board and by the professionals from various departments in the county and to which there is no known opposition at this time. We discussed these in our work session. There's certain staff comments and stipulations have been made, and we do not anticipate any further discussion is needed for a decision. So as we go forward, Mr. Peterson, our County Zoning Division Manager, will read each case into the record. Mr. Peterson will also ask if your hands, have you raise your hand to signify that you're present, and if you're in opposition for that particular case that is currently on consent, Mr. Peterson will ask you to identify yourself as the case is read into the record. We will then pull the case off of consent and hear it as part of our regular case agenda. We will then vote on all the cases still on consent at one time. Once we have approved the cases on consent, we will move to our regular case agenda. And with that, Mr. Peterson, it's all yours.
And thank you, Madam Chair. Before we get going today, there are two cases on today's printed agenda which have been withdrawn without prejudice. And these cases will not be heard today. First case is variance case V36, Alexander Farrington. This case has been withdrawn without prejudice. It will not be heard today. Second case is variance case V46, Edward Michael Galancy Jr. This case has been withdrawn without prejudice and will not be heard by the Board of Zoning Appeals. Furthermore, there is one case on today's printed agenda which has been continued into the May 10th, 2023 variance hearing, and that's variance case V40, Christine Lobdell Rainey. That case has been continued till May 10th, 2023. It will not be heard today. And with that, Madam Chair and Board, I'm ready to start the consent agenda. Cobb County Board of Zoning Appeals, variance hearing consent agenda for April 12th, 2023. First case on consent is variance case V39, James E. Barlow Jr. and Julie Barlow. Request a variance to allow a second electrical meter on a residential lot in land lot 230 of the 20th District. The property is located on the east side of Victoria Falls Drive, north of Fords Road. The Board of Zoning Appeals recommends approval, subject to the following conditions. Number 1, traffic comments. Number 2, development inspections comments. And number 3, no commercial use and for single family use only. Is the applicant present? Let the record show the applicant is here. Is there anyone here opposed to variance case V39? Are you opposed, ma'am? No? Okay. Let the record show there's no one opposed. Variance case V41, John H. Chapin and Diane D. Chapin, trustees or their successors in interest of the John H. and Diane D. Chapin Living Trust dated May 21st, 2012. Applicants request a variance. Number 1, reduce the front setback from required 15 feet to 7 feet. And then number 2, increase the maximum allowable impervious surface from 35% to 53.51% in land lots 3 and 4 of the 1st District. The property is located on the west side of Chattahoochee Plantation Drive, south of Chattahoochee Lane. The Board of Zoning Appeals recommends approval, subject to the following conditions. Number 1, traffic comments. Number 2, stormwater management comments. Number 3, maximum impervious surface to be 48.9%. And number 4, site plan dated April 11th, 2023, with final approval by stormwater management. Is the applicant present? Let the record show the applicant is here. Is there anyone here opposed to variance case V41? No. Let the record show there's no one opposed. Variance case V42, Natasha F. D. Barros requests a variance to number 1, reduce the side setback from required 10 feet to 0 feet adjacent to the western property line, and that is existing. And number 2, reduce the setback for an accessory structure under 144 square feet for an existing approximately 120 square foot shed required 5 feet to 1 foot adjacent to the northern property line in land lot 862 of the 17th district. The property is located on the north side of Sunny Lane, west of Smithstone Road. The Board of Zoning Appeals recommends approval, subject to the following conditions. Number 1, development inspections comments. Number 2, site plan review comments. And number 3, within 90 days, the applicant to either, number 1, remove the portion of the house over the property line. Number 2, revise property lines to get the house at least 1 foot on the property. Or number 3, applicant to obtain an easement or an agreement for the encroachment. Is the applicant present? Let the record show the applicant is here. Is there anyone here opposed to variance case V42?
Yes, you have one.
One opposed? Okay. There's one opposed to variance case V42, so we'll pull that off consent and put it on the regular agenda. Okay. Variance case V43, Michael McDonald and Catherine McDonald request a variance to reduce the front setback from required 60 feet to 58 feet, which is existing. Number 2, reduce the side setback from required 25 feet to 15 feet. Number 3, reduce the rear setback for an accessory structure under 650 square feet for an existing approximately 391 square foot shed and overhang from required 50 feet to 4 feet. Number 4, reduce the side setback for an accessory structure under 650 square feet for an existing approximately 391 square foot shed and overhang for required 25 feet to 0 feet adjacent to the northern property line. And number 5, reduce the rear setback for an accessory structure under 650 square feet for an existing approximately 370 square foot pergola for required 50 feet to 45 feet in land lot 107 of the 16th district. The property is located on the east side of Monticello Circle, northwest of Jefferson Township Place. The Board of Zoning Appeals recommends approval, subject to the following conditions. Number 1, development inspections comments. Number 2, stormwater management comments. And number 3, fire department comments. Is the applicant present? Let the record show the applicant is here. Is there anyone here opposed to variance case V43? Let the record show there's no one opposed. Variance case V44, Marquita Jackson requests a variance to reduce the side setback for an accessory structure under 650 square feet for an approximately 418 square foot gazebo from required 12 feet to 2 feet in land lot 300 of the 20th district. The property is located on the southwest side of Julia Drive, south of Due West Road. The Board of Zoning Appeals recommends approval, subject to the following conditions. Number 1, development inspections comments. Number 2, fire department comments. And number 3, stormwater management comments. Is the applicant present? Let the record show the applicant is here. Is there anyone here opposed to variance case V44? 3? Okay. There's 3 opposed, Madam Chair and Board, so we'll pull that one off consent and put it in its regular order. Okay, variance V45, Walton Community Services Incorporated requests a variance to number 1, reduce the setback for a sign from required 62 feet from the center line of an arterial road right-of-way to 61 feet. And number 2, reduce the side setback or side yard setback for a sign from required 15 feet to 9 feet in land lots 1006 and 1067 of the 19th district. The property is located on the east side of Austell Road, south of Fairview Drive. The Board of Zoning Appeals recommends approval, subject to number 1, traffic comments, number 2, stormwater management comments, and number 3, fire comments. Is the applicant present? Let the record show the applicant is here. Is anyone here opposed to variance case V45? No. Let the record show there's no one opposed. Variance case V47, Lydia Galiva and Art Stennis request a variance to allow pool equipment to be located to the side of the house in land lot 275 of the 20th district. The property is located on the east side of Ackworth Due West Road, north of Stone Lakes Drive. The Board of Zoning Appeals recommends approval, subject to traffic comments. Is the applicant present? Let the record show the applicant is here. Is there anyone here opposed to variance case V47? Let the record show there's no one opposed. Variance case V49, Amanda Multhrop requests a variance to allow an accessory structure to be located to the side of the house, which is the existing pool and deck. Number 2, reduce the side setback for pool from required 5 feet to 0 feet adjacent to the eastern property line, which is existing. Number 3, allow an accessory structure to be located to the side of the house, which is a proposed 1,500 square foot garage. Number 4, reduce setbacks for an accessory structure over 650 square feet for the proposed 1,500 square foot garage from required 100 feet to 35 feet from the front property line and to 10 feet adjacent to the eastern property line. And number 5, allow a second electrical meter on a residential lot in land lots 79 and 80 of the 1st District. The property is located on the south side of Fox Run Lane, east of Sherwood Lane. The Board of Zoning Appeals recommends approval, subject to the following conditions. Number 1, development inspections comments. Number 2, site plan review comments. Number 3, stormwater management comments. Number 4, water comments. Number 5, fire department comments. And number 6, detached garage not to be used for residential or commercial uses. Is the applicant present? Let the record show the applicant is here. Is there anyone here opposed to the variance case of V49?
John, or Mr. Peterson, I would like to add an additional stipulation, please,
Okay.
that the applicant will plant trees and shrubbery around the garage to buffer from the street view on Fox Run Lane, and to be approved by the county arborist.
Okay. Got that. All right. So we revise that one to add that one more. Okay. Next variance is variance case of V50. Northern Borges requests a variance to allow an accessory use, which is a proposed in-ground pool, to be to the side of the house in land lot 1184, the 16th District. The property is located on the south side of Lower Roswell Road, east of Lindsay Road. The Board of Zoning Appeals recommends approval, subject to the following conditions. Number 1, traffic comments, and number 2, sewer comments. Is the applicant present? The director show the applicant is here. Is there anyone here opposed to the variance case of V50? Let the record show there's no one opposed. And lastly, variance case of V51, Curley Family Homes, request a variance to reduce the front setback from required 35 feet to 32 feet in land lots 277 and 278 of the 20th District. The property is located on the southwest corner of Entrenchment Ridge Court and Fortification Ridge, west of Frank Kirk Road. The Board of Zoning Appeals recommends approval, subject to the following conditions. Number 1, traffic comments. Number 2, fire department comments. And number 3, site plan review comments. Is the applicant present? Let the record show the applicant is here. Is there anyone here opposed to the variance case V51? Let the record show there's no one opposed. And that completes the consent agenda. Madam Chair and Board, with variance case V42 and V44 off the consent agenda.
Does anybody have any questions, comments before we vote?
I'm ready to make a motion.
All right.
Madam Chair, in order that I may register my opposition to one case, my request is that we, first of all, amend the consent agenda by deleting those cases which have opposition here today, and by voting separately, though, as part of the consent agenda on V41, and that we go ahead and approve the balance of the consent agenda as read and as amended by comments from the District 2 representative.
Do I have a second?
A second.
I'll place your vote, please. All passed. The motion was made by Mr. Boulogne, seconded by Ms. Willis, and we had a 5-0. Okay? Now, it's back to you. Okay, if you were on consent and,
I have to do,
Oh.
because he's wanted 41 to be voted on separately.
oh, I'm sorry. Excuse me.
I make a motion that we vote on V41.
Second.
Motion made and seconded and voted. All, one no and 4 yeses.
Okay, all those folks are on consent except for V42 and V44, you're free to leave. And moving into the held a continued case from last month, variance case V32. Jeffrey Johnson requests a variance to number 1, reduce the front setback for lot 1 from required 40 feet to 28 feet, which is existing. Number 2, reduce the rear setback for lot 1 from required 35 feet to 30 feet, which is existing. And number 3, reduce the required setbacks for an accessory structure over 650 square feet for an existing approximately 1,450 square foot garage, required 100 feet to 80 feet adjacent to the southern property line, 36 feet adjacent to the northern property line, 35 feet adjacent to the western property line, 35 feet adjacent to the western property line and to the southern property line, and 36 feet adjacent to the northern property line. And 21 feet adjacent to the eastern property line in land lot in land lots 660 and 661 of the 16th district. Property is located on the east side of Joel Drive and on the north side of Liberty Hill Road. The applicant is present. Is there anyone here opposed to variance case V32? 2. Okay, let the record show there's 2 people opposed. All those who wish to address the board, please come forward to be sworn in.
You now have your 10 minutes to discuss your case.
Thank you, Madam Chair and board members. I'm Kevin Moore. I'm here on behalf of the applicant and representing Jeffrey Johnson in this application for a variance. I won't go through the list of requested variances again. It's rather lengthy, but I will review those on the site plan just so that you can see exactly how those fit in and really form the basis of this request for some setback variances and orders that this property, which is 2.86 acres, you see it highlighted on your screen now. The purpose of the variances is so that this property can be subdivided into 2 residential lots as opposed to the 1 current residential lot that it's on now, so that a future residential home can be built on the lot to be created. So let me turn to that now and kind of go through it with you. I think it'll have a lot more sense at that time. All right, turning to the proposed plat, this is Liberty Hill Road. This is CSX Railroad here along that stretch of the property. And this is Hiawassee Drive as it comes in here off of Canton Road. Both Hiawassee here turns as well as Liberty Hill Road both go out and intersect with Canton Road not too far away. The intent and purpose of the variances is to first and foremost preserve the existing 2 structures. This is an existing home that's been there for quite some time, was built fairly many years ago, as well as what's identified here as a garage, which is an accessory structure, also built very many years ago. Those are existing buildings. What's proposed is to be able to subdivide here and create 2 lots, one a rather large lot for the future construction of a personal residence of 2.25 acres, and then a second lot here, which would be just over 0.6 acres. Both of those comply with the R20 zoning standards. Where the variances come in is as it relates to the 2 existing structures. Where these are today and existing, it requires a reduction in the front setback here for that existing home, for it to be able to stay in that location, as well as the existing accessory structure. There are side setback and rear setback variances that are necessary for it to be and remain in that location. And lastly, there's a small variance as it relates to a rear setback for the existing home. All of those are existing conditions and are derived from the fact of trying to create a single lot that faces to Liberty Hill Road and maintain and keep the existing 2 structures. The balance of the property, 2.25 acres, would then be available for construction of a single home. And so it's really the platting of this property that creates that, the need for the variances here in a manner that would allow for really a proper orientation of both lots as you see here, and will allow the owner, Mr. Jeffrey Johnson, to move forward to construct his home in this location. What has occurred, though, here has caused an issue with this accessory structure that's shown as a garage. What I'm showing you is pictures of the work that had been done by Mr. Johnson to renovate the accessory structure shown as a garage once he bought it in October of 2021. And he had converted it to a office use for his business, Synergy, to have a few employees and be able to use it for an office. The property prior to his purchase had been on and off again, used for other different types of commercial uses, including that building that had been problematic. But when he bought it, he understood, he just saw what had happened before and did that. And this had caused an issue, obviously, that is not consistent with county codes. You're allowed to have your personal office in your home. You just can't run a business out of it, have employees and that type of thing coming out of a residential property or residentially zoned property or your home. So when we made the application and this application was submitted for the variances, this issue came up again. And so since that time, and you saw, but based on your agenda, this was continued from last month. Since that time, this look, what has been done to the garage or accessory structure, what you're seeing now has been removed. So all of the office-related or business-related furniture and everything else that's in there has now been removed. And it will be, and it's being converted and has been converted to personal use, such as it's got a gym for personal use by Mr. Johnson and his family, and personal use, which you would expect an accessory structure to be used for on a residential lot. And so there is no longer an ongoing business or office business that's being operated there. That business has been relocated to a business office in which a lease has been entered into, and that has been taken care of, and this conversion has now occurred. We're certainly welcome to have any county inspector that wants to come and take a look and ensure that that's the case. We're happy to make sure that that's the case in moving forward. But back to the actual variances, which are the subject of the application, we think the variances here are needed. The variances are needed so that we can have existing structures that were previously grandfathered. Those need to be maintained and kept. It would be a monumental waste for two very good structures to be simply demolished, rather allowing this property, which is, like I said, 2.8 acres, to be subdivided into simply 2 lots is what we think very much desired by the community at large. I know they've had some issues with the fact that it was being used as an office, but I think overall this community in the area of the property has been adamant that the existing commercial uses that are along Liberty Hill Drive, which I showed you along the bottom where this property fronts, have been strictly controlled. What they haven't been able to, what hasn't occurred, excuse me, is for commercial uses to be expanded in the area on other properties. And it's been very important for the community and the area residents that properties that are residential stay residential. This particular property on Liberty Hill Road, if you drove out there, you can see various levels of industrial and commercially used properties from the front. But it's been very important that this piece remain residential. In addition, it's been very important to the community at large that this 2.8 acres not be developed for some intense residential use either, which it could. In this case, it's zoned R20. Presumptively, it could be developed for 5 or 6 homes with R20 lots. What's proposed here is simply to have 2 lots on the 2.8 acres and create the opportunity to build a new house and retain the existing homes. And then you just simply have 2 lots, and the variances, though, are needed to maintain that existing home and accessory structure with those setback variances noted. I'm here, can answer any questions, and happy to do so, and respectfully request approval of the variances, given the explanation we've provided to you that there is no longer any office or commercial use of that accessory structure building. It has been converted and that has been removed. And given that overall, we think that the proposal actually meets with what the community has stated forever and a day, what they've always wanted to see in this particular area, and that is simply a reflection of their residential homes that they have, and that's what's being proposed. Thank you for your consideration here today.
Thank you. If we have
Thank you.
questions, we'll ask you back up.
Sure, thank you.
So if we can hear from the opposition, please. Good afternoon. If you'll state your name and where you live, you also have 10 minutes to discuss this issue.
Thank you. My name is Anne Marie Thomas, and I live at 856 Hiawassee Drive, which is the house across. Yep, you got it. And then another house across from it at the bottom is Mr. Chastain's house. And then the property right across
Excuse me,
from
could
me.
you speak up just a little bit? You have a very lovely, soft voice, but we can't hear you.
And the property right across from me that you'll see R20 green area and NRC. And so to kind of just go off with what was just proposed is the neighborhood has been fighting to keep this area residential. And so for that NRC property right across from me, that has to be maintained and stay R20. But the problems that occurred from that property over the years has been ongoing. And so I would like for no more property to be going in that area for businesses. And so I appreciated that they emphasized the fact that they would like to keep it residential because the experience just have been awful with people moving in and making businesses out of that area. And the restrictions, because there's a lot of GC zoning going on there and people have kind of grandfathered into it. The noise of the type of businesses that takes place there is very rough as well. So if there is going to be businesses, we would like to see stuff like NRC go in there. But to get back to what has happened also over the past year, it's been hard with him running his business out there, having the traffic coming in and out, the traffic not just from employees, but business, people that want to do business with him, or Uber, or whoever comes by, people asking me for directions because his mailbox is to Liberty Hill entrance. And it is apparently what I've been told and said that it's very difficult to use that entrance for him to enter the property. So they've been utilizing our entrance at Hiawassee and entering in from that, what used to be an old gravel farm road for equipment back then. And so the speed limit has been violated because it's a neighborhood. It's a very fast drive-in, drive-out. The several employees' vehicle. People have a very hard time turning around. They also stop there on that curb. I had to call Cobb County schools because the school buses was having a hard time turning around in their corner because they were parking on the edge. And so when people also come and visit and do business with him, they would park there and would cause a traffic jam. And when people turn around, they don't have enough radius, so they would also make tire marks on my property on the grass and damage that. So not only is it, a violation of that he's been running a business in R20, but it's also been a traffic issue, it's been a security issue, and it's also caused damage to my property. Then I guess I would like to ask for it to be denied. He's also, invested a lot in remodeling a garage, which I would have liked to see stay a garage, or that he would have had taken the time last year already when he knew that he was in violation to not run his business out there and use it for personal use. It also begs the question, where is he going to run his business out of going forward? He lives down the street on Liberty Hill Road, and I also have viewed the property lines and wonder what those future lines are going to look like, because the entrance for both those land lots are from Liberty Hill. And the way that the plat's laid out, I just don't see that, it's going to change the character of our neighborhood. Our neighborhood is more rural than urban. We've got big lot lands over there, and I would like for the neighborhood characteristics not to change. It also will bring devaluation. Once you start changing characteristics, can also bring down the value of my home. And in what kind of way he wanted to change and put property or housing on there for the future begs me to also wonder, would he do the same with that property that's now right in front of me that has an R20 and an NRC, where in the future he will divide it by putting up a house and then the facing of Liberty Hill add another business to that as well and just use the house anyways for business use in the future. The purpose of him was to run a business out of that property. There was in August an offer put on my house as well to purchase the home. And my neighbor before that he apparently spoke to, just in October, we ran into each other and he asked me what my value of my property was. So immediately when he heard the values went up, he turned around and sold it. And that just gives me more validation when he mentioned, that he was under impression that the previous neighbor was running a business out of there, that the intention was to run a business. And so it's just hard for me to, I guess, see his track record and his behavior and believe that going forward that the intention really truly is to put a place up there for a residence and to live there. And I think that the building and the outbuilding, a shed that he added, it doesn't show on the plat, but there's a shed been added as well, should be removed. And like everybody else, before you make investments like that onto a property, you do know he knew going into it that it was residential and that he should not have made those investments before it got approved to be used as a business. And, sorry. I think I'll leave it at that for right now and let him speak again, but there is some pictures. I don't know if you wanted to see some of them, but I did submit if you wanted to see the entrance that's being utilized by them. And that's my view from my home, and so it is very obvious to see the daily use of vehicles going in and out. And you can see the outbuilding, one of those going back to. And that's was there a video too? That's some of the marks that the vehicles make on my property when they have a difficult time turning around. And I don't think that, as far as I know, when I called, that driveway was not permitted, and that outbuilding or the accessory building wasn't permitted either. And so that's also not on the original plat or deed, and so that wasn't quote-unquote paid taxes on as well. So I don't have all the documentation to go back and investigate. It was a little difficult to find, but all those things are being utilized because of stuff that shouldn't have been done to begin with. And was there a video?
You want video?
Yeah, you can play it. Fast forward. Okay, again. Fast forward. Okay, again. So that's how they turn around. And recently, I'm grateful that he's tried to also make an effort to remove the office building and put the gym in. But then we had big trucks in there too that couldn't make the turn in there. So even going forward for the future, I don't think that should have been an established driveway to begin with either. Thank you very much. Okay.
You may be seated. All right. We've closed the public, another speaker. You only, please. Yeah. Yeah. Your name, and you only have a minute and 15 seconds to say your remarks.
15 seconds?
A minute and 15.
Oh, okay. I can do it in less than that. My name's David Poteet. I've lived in the neighborhood way too long for my life, and we've really tried to protect this property. I've known it with the property since it was a dairy, then the Freemans, then Sam Sheesby, who tried to run a business out of there. I used to coach Sam at Kennesaw State, so I know Sam. We stopped that, and I talked to Sam a few months ago. He said that he had run, at the end, the last part of once we stopped it, a family-owned business. And I talked to him on the phone. He may have misled Mr. Johnson. I'm not trying to say what he purposely did that, but the goal has always been not to allow on low-density residential on the comp plan a business there. And it's surrounded, for the most part, the railroad tracks, across the street from the house that's already existing as business, but behind it on two sides at least is R20. Everything's been R20 forever. And it's a beautiful piece of property. We'd love to have Mr. Johnson live there as a resident, have nothing against him. This goes back many years, so it's not personal. It's just a matter of protecting this neighborhood, which I love very much, and trying to keep the business away.
Yeah. Thank you for your comments. You may be seated. All right. I've now closed the public hearing. Do we have questions or comments from the board?
I have a question for Mr. Peterson. This was an accessory structure that was used as a business. What for a home? Can you do the Cobb County definition for a business that's run in a home?
Cobb County does allow certain types of businesses to run from a house as a customary home occupation, but the customary home occupation has to be run from the main house. It can't be run from an accessory building.
And can they have employees?
Now, when you have a customary home occupation, you cannot have employees, signs, or customers at the house.
Okay, thank you. I've spent a lot of time with Mr. Moore, working on different variations of what to do at the garage. I was really surprised when he sent the pictures that it was a very well-appointed business, and so we talked about a lot of various uses or what could be converted rather than just gutting it and turning it into a garage. And I think that with the following stipulations that I have, and I'm also very, I understand the opposition about living in a residential area and then being impacted by neighbors that bring in a business and they run a business, and it's impacting her home in her life, and also creating some issues on the street. So in weighing that all out, I and discussing this with quite a number of people, I'm ready to make a motion. Anyone have any questions yet? So I make a motion that we approve the variance 1 and 2 setbacks for the existing house, and then I make a motion to approve number 3 with the following stipulations, and that will be to convert the office space to a personal gym within 90 days. We'll have the space inspected and permitted by Cobb County within those 90 days. The property, from my understanding, has not been inspected, so this is a very important stipulation. There will be no office, no living in the gym. It's for personal use only. I also make another stipulation is that that there will be no parking of company vehicles. You will have to comply with Cobb County Code with regards to that. They cannot subdivide the property of the single-family home until completion of all of the above. And once that's been completed, Cobb County has come out and inspected it, then the applicant can go and put in an application to subdivide the property for one single home. And as stated by Mr. Peterson, that there will only be business allowed for personal business, and he spelled out what those conditions are. So that is my motion.
You have a second? Second. And Ms. Summerhour, are we ready? Yes.
Just a question. Did you consider at all requiring the dilapidated barn to be removed within any specific time period?
The dilapidated barn.
It shows, yeah, it's on, could you pull the site back up? It's way up there.
The dilapidated barn in the back. I think that when the property is subdivided, that will be part of the application for the property, what they would do with the dilapidated barn.
Yeah, can we just make that a condition of them getting their lot split?
Mr. Peterson, can that stipulation be in this particular process, or is that something that would only occur when they come in to subdivide?
That normally happens at the subdivision, and they do have it labeled to be removed. So the plan is to take it out when they subdivide the rest of the lot.
Is that something that we have the ability to put that in a stipulation, or is that something that is done when he comes in to subdivide and puts in a plan to the county?
It can be done either way, but I would suggest you call Mr. Moore up here and see if he's willing to put a time frame on the barn.
So, Mr. Moore, can you address this?
Mr. Johnson informs me it's already been removed, so I don't believe that there's really an issue at this point.
Okay, thank you.
So thank you for that.
Thanks. Do I need to restate my motion? No. So it stands?
Any other questions? We ready to vote? All right, place your votes. It passes 5-0.
All right, moving into the regular agenda. First case for me here is variance case V42. Natasha F. Navarros requests a variance to reduce the side setback from required 10 feet to 0 feet adjacent to the western property line, which is existing. And number 2, reduce the setback for an accessory structure under 144 square feet for an existing approximately 120 square foot shed, required 5 feet to 1 foot, adjacent to the northern property line in land lot 862 of the 17th district. Property is located on the north side of Sunny Lane, west of Smithstone Road. The applicant was present, and earlier there's one person here opposed. All those who wish to address the board regarding this case, please come forward to be sworn in.
Good afternoon. Just come up and state your name for the record and identify your property.
Well, it's the house we buy it the last year. I think the date is on March. And my neighbor, she's complaining for we construction something for the line, but when above the house is there. So I'm here and to try solution my problem.
If you can start over for us and give us your name.
Natasha.
We didn't-
For
Your
lunch.
name, and then tell us a little bit about what you're requesting.
Thank you, Deidre.
I think I need help. My name is Natasha Forlange Barros. The property line is 2593 Sunny Lane. And for the existing plan is the small house for left side. For she's complaining, we passed the proper line. Yeah.
But you're on your property line, but it's not into hers, is that correct?
Over the property line.
Okay. Over.
So it's slightly over the property
We
line,
need to let-
the existing structure?
Yeah,
Yes, for the
yeah,
land survey, say yes.
okay.
Is up.
Yeah.
Little bit, but it's up.
Okay.
Do you have anything else you want to share?
Well, I don't think, I have it for the signature for both sides. For the side left is Chris, and another side is Misael. And I have the land survey here if you want it, but I don't know if I can.
You have the signature page?
Sorry?
You have where they signed?
Yeah.
I don't remember if it was in the packet. Okay, thank you.
Where's this?
Okay.
Mrs. DeBarros,
Let's wait till we hear the opposition, unless you have,
I just wanted to help her
Okay.
explain her
Okay. All right,
situation a
that's
little
fine.
bit. Mr. DeBarros, so this structure, you purchased this house and the structure was already here. You've connected it to the house. Can you explain what this structure is now in connection to the house? What the use is?
Okay, is this correct? I don't know if you can show the pictures. You can. No, for the, yeah, the plan. I can, how can I do for a show or something? It's on? Yeah. For here is this is a square, this is a small square, and say, I apply for ads for a new laundry and a bathroom, but everything that's existing there, whenever construction, when I buy it, it's existing. So is the problem is this line for the wall, say, is a proper line for her, but I have the fence here, and the fence is for the side for the wall, so you don't pass the wall. Everything existing before I buy it. So, and when I say I receive it for the stop work order because we're remodeling inside, but just doors, baseboards, and some stuff. It's not a big deal. And I think the name is Matt for the inspector. He has went there, and he is giving me he's told me I can do everything, but don't do nothing for this small house, because in the GPS it say don't exist nothing for this small house. But and I come in here and I try pick it up for a blueprint and some something like that, try helping me, but it's not existing.
What year did you buy the house?
Last year,
Last year?
I think it's a March 11.
Any other questions? Have a seat, and if we have more questions, we'll ask you back up. Thank you.
I'm Dorothy Dow, and I live at 2581 Sunny Lane. I am the westerly neighbor, and today is the first time I have seen the survey. I received no written notice from them. I only saw that the sign was posted. I have a picture to show you what the shed is like in that square area. Here is my fence. This is the, I'm sorry, this is the encroaching area in the survey here, right here. And as far as livability goes with me at the house, there's really no impact, but I'm elderly. I had an accidental injury about 1.5 years ago, and I will not be able to stay in my house too much longer, and it's going to impact me greatly when I go to sell the property.
Any other comments? Any other comments?
I'm sorry?
Do you have any other comments? Any other comments?
No, that's it.
All right.
It's just, mainly it's the value that it's going to impact my property when I go to sell it. The setback lines, if they had permitted the additions that they did, they would have known that the setback lines were there. And this happened at a time when I was recovering from an injury, and I, quite frankly, didn't pay that close attention to what was going on, but they actually had to come inside my fenced area to staple the siding on it.
And this was done by the previous owner, correct?
I'm sorry?
Was it-
Was this done by the previous owner? Was this done by the previous owner?
No, it was done by the current owners. It was just done within the last 1.5 years.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we can now close the public hearing. Does anyone on the board have questions?
I do, because I think timeline is a matter of importance here. Because if we are talking about a grandfathered issue, or who actually, put it in versus the current owner versus the new owners, I think that that's important to know.
The resident to
I
come
think
back up.
that if we could bring up
Yeah.
Mrs. DeBarros.
Yes.
And she can explain the structure and then what they did to improve it. Can you come forward again? So, I went out and saw your home, and my understanding was that when you bought your house, can you explain, because I know that you have tried to you would put up some siding, but could you explain what was there before you bought the house? What kind of, was there a structure there? And what you did since the time you bought your house to today?
Okay, you can put it on. Yeah. everything is there. I just change for drywalls and insulation because the house is old and don't have the insulation drywall. And she told me we don't now, but you can see the date. We buy March 11, 21. So we don't do any construction. I buy an existing at the house.
So what have you done to that structure from the time that you have purchased it to today? Because what opposition is saying is that you have put up siding. Can you,
Yeah.
did you put siding on the existing structure?
Yeah, well, we just fix everything is broken and that's it. It's just close everything, new siding for all houses and drywalls. Everything is existing for the structure, electrical, everything is there. We don't change nothing.
She wouldn't know. Did you have was any of your work, when you were doing the work inside the existing property, was any of the work, did it need to be permitted, Mr. Peterson?
Can you repeat that?
They did some interior finishing on the shed or on the building. Does that have to?
Exterior siding.
And the exterior siding as well. Does that have to be permitted?
The work on the inside probably does, the siding does not.
Just in clarity, I think what she was saying was that they did exterior siding work because there was damage to the exterior.
Yeah, it's that one.
That there was some areas that was opened, and there was also mold. Is that what you were testifying to? That you repaired by fixing the siding? Is that what is that your testimony?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, thanks.
Just in clarity.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions?
No, I don't have
Okay.
any other questions.
Thank you. You may sit down.
Thank you.
I'm sorry.
Are we,
So I would like to make my motion.
yes, please. Yes.
So I make my motion that we approve the variance to reduce the side setback from the required 10 to 0, and to reduce the setback for the accessory structure from the 5 to 1 foot. In staff comments, she will have to go and get this rectified through the county and present her plat showing that this structure, which has been existing, has been built over the property line, and then to make those corrections so that when Mrs. Dow does go to sell her property, it will be recorded and corrected, so it shouldn't be creating any hardship as far as having something that is illegally built. But that's a matter that they can take up, and when they go and make those adjustments on the property line. So with that, I make a motion that we approve V42 with all staff comments.
Okay. From
Do
the
I have a
consent agenda?
second?
Pardon?
With all the staff comments from the consent agenda?
Yes,
Yes.
all the staff comments.
All right.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Ms. Swanson made the motion, Ms. Willis seconded. Please place your votes. All right, passed 5-0. Thank you very much.
Okay, next case is variance case V44, Marquita Jackson. Request a variance to reduce the side setback for an accessory structure under 650 square feet for a 418 square foot gazebo from required 12 feet to 2 feet in land lot 300 of the 20th district. The property is located on the southwest side of Julia Drive, south of Dewis Road. The applicant is present. Earlier, there were 3 people here in opposition. All those who wish to address the board, please come forward to be sworn in.
Good afternoon. If you'll state your name, and then also just as a reminder, each party has 10 minutes, not in 10 minutes individually, as is no matter how many speakers there are in the group. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Marquita Jackson.
I'm Tremez Jackson.
We live at 397 Julia Drive in the Berkshire Woods subdivision. We're here to request variance for a pavilion that we were working on. We did have an existing pavilion on our property. However, due to storms, lack of quality of wood and materials, it started deteriorating. We've only been there for roughly about 2.5, 3 years. So we decided to fix it, get a new one, make better upgrades, more quality product, more quality wood and roofing.
We also, before that, we had multiple people come out to see if we could fix it, and because of the wood damage, nobody could fix it, the existing structure.
So as we would entertain outside, we have small children and very small dogs. Pieces of the pavilion would start to fall off when the wind blew. The top would extend back, so it was a matter of time before that structure collapsed. It did have rock forms on the side, and those were falling off, so it was a hazard at that point. We then decided to, we also had inherited a rough fence from the previous owner, so that needed to be removed as well, so we decided to do it all in one. However, the fence and everything, we decided to bring it in. So when we did build the pavilion, it looks as though it's encroaching upon our neighbor's property, but it's not, because we brought it in 1.5 feet, I want to say, but we brought it in all the way around, just our fence. So we did the pavilion. Unfortunately, on August 31st, we received a cease and desist from our HOA, and we did attempt to speak with them. We've sent several correspondence asking them to meet with us. They did say they wanted to meet with us and then never met with us. In December, I sent them an email asking if we can come to a resolution before the new year. And then shortly after that, we received a Cobb County inspector on site. And we spoke with him and been working with him. He gave us 8 days to get the requested information in, and we did. I spoke to him in the morning and in the evening once I finished at the Cobb County office from leaving work. We got everything turned in within the 8-day period. We would love to get this situation rectified with you guys. We have spoken to our neighbors on the opposite side, and they're totally fine with it. Our neighbors across the street are fine with it. It's larger because we have a large concrete that was there beforehand. So we opted to make enhancements to our living space outside. So we did extend it about 2 feet, and then that's why we're requesting the setback.
And it also covers the pool equipment that was already in the setback prior to building a pavilion.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Do you have anything else you'd like? Do you have anything else you'd like to add?
No, ma'am, not at the moment, unless you all have questions for us.
We'll ask you questions at the end, so if you want to sit down, and
Thank
we can bring you back up if need be. Speaking in opposition, if you would come forward, state your name, and as I mentioned, you have a total of 10 minutes.
Good afternoon. I'm Brandon Hutton, 5067 Julia Way, also here for the Berkshire Woods ACC. I am the chairman.
I'm Amber Hutton. I also live at 5067 Julia Way. I'm here on behalf of the Berkshire Woods HOA. I'm the secretary.
And I am Stephanie Spratt, 381 Julia Drive, and I am the other next door neighbor.
So the first thing that I want to start with, I'm going to try and keep this as short as possible. They mentioned, tried to get approvals and things. They have been doing a lot of work over the last couple of months on the home, roofing, painting, so on and so forth. They have sent in ACC modifications, all with approval in a timely manner. They were sent by the ACC a cease and desist because they were building a structure without approval, which happened in August 30th of '22. They continued to build the structure with a denial of the letter. But I want to show the existing structure. You can see the stone they talked about. That's prior to, I don't know the date of this, but this was in the ACC records, probably for the approval after completion of this originally. The pool equipment is to the right, and you can see, I can't tell how far the fence is, but obviously the hot tub there is probably at least 10 feet or so. The next thing I want to show is the new structure, which shows a couple of things. One, there's the new fence. Two is the height of the structure sticking elevated way above the fence. We are in a very, how do I put it, seclusive style neighborhood that they want the architecture of the neighborhood to maintain, you know, the appeal. This structure sticks up and all you see between the houses is a roof. From the street view, you can obviously see it here. Prior to, it was a clear view of the trees for everybody in the neighborhood. With this going in, if this is approved and not corrected, obviously we're going to be limited in our neighborhood that now we have to allow others to do the same thing. But it's in our covenant that it's not accepted. They were not approved by the ACC. And I'll leave it at that. If you want records, I have all the communication right here. I'm going to try and keep it short because I know you said 10 minutes.
Hi. On August 30th of 2022, they were sent a cease and desist because when they had sent in a request for the fence, they did not send in a request for the pavilion. And so they received, there was a notice to the HOA that structure was going up that we didn't approve. So a letter was sent. And then the Jacksons submitted an ACC modification request on September the 2nd, after it was already up. Then, shortly after that, the Jacksons submitted an HCC modification for outdoor lighting. That was approved right away. And then on the 16th of September, they were notified that, yes, your outdoor lighting is approved, but no, they do not approve the Pergola Pavilion. On the 16th as well, the ACC sent a letter, and I have all the letters that were sent to the Jacksons with the changes that needed to be made to comply with the covenants in the ACC rules. And then on the 8th is when February of this year, they submitted the variance request. And the board has been more than accommodating with trying to get them to work with us. By this time, we typically are supposed to fine homeowners that don't comply, and we haven't fined them. We've approved everything else. They started making requests in April of 2022, and we allowed everything. Had they sent in a request for this structure, it would have been declined, and they would have known what not to do, what they could do before they started building. So they kind of put us in a bind because it's already built, and I don't understand why they didn't send in a request with the fence. And it was my understanding there wasn't a permit on it. It's right at the fence line. It's huge. It's huge. And it doesn't go with our neighborhood. Thank you.
I hate that we even have to do this. I'm the next door neighbor, and I was on the board at the time when it had first gone up, and so I knew it had been denied. And I'm actually the driveway that one picture was, it's my driveway looking at the view. That's in so the back of my house faces it. And they're the nicest neighbors. They've been lovely, but it doesn't go with their neighborhood. They already have a structure in their backyard. And it's so visible. And, if we sell our house in a few years, that's what you see. And it's concerning, and it's not allowed, it's in our, I hate it, but I mean, it's in our HOA. This wouldn't be allowed. It wouldn't have been approved. So something would have been approved for them for sure to replace that pergola, absolutely. But with this structure, this specific one wouldn't have been approved. I couldn't put it in my yard. If I had put in a request for it, it would have been denied. I've had stuff denied. So if this is allowed and we can start encroaching on the boundaries of our properties, we only have 40 homes in our neighborhood. It's going to start looking bad. I think our neighborhood's about 15 years old. And as it, starting to age, the last thing you want to do is have things not attractive to the neighborhood that don't fit with the aesthetics of it. And I hate even having to say anything, but it's just, we all have to sell our properties one day. And, that it just would have never been approved. I wish so much they would have put in a request to begin with so we wouldn't even be in this situation, because it's a pavilion, it's not a pergola. And another pergola would have been no problem. It would have been approved instantly. So that's where we're at with that.
I want to show you guys Google Maps view of the previous pergola. You can see it's right here, how far it is from the fence line. The current one is right at the fence line. And it's, like I said, it's huge. It's right at the fence line. That was the one that they replaced.
So the big things with the ACC is the height. They don't allow anything over the fence. All the backyards in our neighborhood pretty much slope to the creek. So prior to, they had a lower height of the pergola. This one obviously is, 11, 12 feet in the air to the peak. So it sticks up well above the fence line. It's very visible from the street and the other neighborhood areas because of where they live. It actually is kind of on a corner. As you can see, the house turns the corner, and every direction in the neighborhood that thing can be seen. And we get constant complaints through the management company of things being built that shouldn't be in the neighborhood and that are written in our covenants that we're not supposed to be in the neighborhood. So we motion that this be denied or altered at minimum to fit within the covenants of the neighborhood.
Thank you.
Thank you. We've now closed the public hearing. Does anybody on the board have questions, please?
Not a question, except for staff. Just remind me, is it a continuance or a hold if I want 30 days to work on this? Hold. Okay. So, Madam Chair, my motion is that we hold this for 30 days so I can try to work with the applicants and the objectors, just having heard the basis of and the reasons for the objections, and being made aware that there are HOA covenants in place. So without a resolution, I'm not sure how much good we can do today.
I second it.
All right, the motion made by Mr. Blouin, seconded by Ms. Swanson. Please place your votes. Motion passed.
Okay.
So just to be sure, we've put this on hold to be heard again at the next meeting, and hopefully we can work something out that will make it work for everybody, but it gives everybody time to have a conversation.
And that would be May the 10th for the next hearing.
I would like to state that I have a conflict of interest with the next case and will be recusing myself.
Okay. All right, next case is variance case V48, Johnson Ferry Baptist Church Incorporated requested variance to number 1, increase the maximum total sign area allowed for signage for non-residential uses located on a residential zone property with over 5 acres from 64 square feet to 84.6 square feet. Increase the height of a non-residential signage on a residential zone property from 8 feet to 9.33 inches. And number 3, increase the maximum size for an electronic messaging portion of the sign from 32 square feet to 60 square feet in land lot 67 of the 1st District. The property is located on the west side of Johnson Ferry Road and on the east side of Woodlawn Drive, south of Little Willie Road. The applicant is here. Is there anyone here opposed? The variance case V48. Let the record show there's two people opposed.
I know we know you, but please state your name before you start your comments.
It's always happy to say my name publicly, so thank you. Thank you for that. Again, I'm Kevin Moore. I'm here on behalf and pleased to represent Johnson Ferry Baptist Church in this variance application for their signage located on Johnson Ferry Road. Mr. Peterson did a good job of reading out the requested variances here. There are three requested variances. 2 of those, though, deal with the existing signage and existing situation for this sign, which has been in place for a very, very long time prior to the existing newer sign ordinance regulations. And so those 2 really apply not to what is some new signage being proposed, but really apply to the existing signage that is there. The 3rd request, as it relates to the electronic messaging portion, would be new because the purpose of this request, or the intent behind it, is the church was seeking to convert their existing old-timey signage where you go and replace the letters manually by hand if you want a different message from Sunday to Sunday or Wednesday to Wednesday or Sunday to Wednesday or whenever you're trying to put a message out there to the public and your congregation, to an electronic version of signage, which now has, as you are well aware, has become the way that we see it almost extremely often. In fact, the county just installed a new electronic signage at the corner of this building not too long ago. Schools, counties, cities, churches, and other businesses have utilized this type of signage and find it far more effective, especially from an electronic signage standpoint when you have something like a church, especially a large church like Johnson Ferry Baptist Church or a school. It enables them to alert not only the congregation and members of upcoming events when things are scheduled on a rotating basis, on a much better basis for passing by. But if you think about what the mission of a church is and lets people know what's going on who may be interested in maybe attending this Sunday or maybe attending an event. So it has become a far more effective means of conveying that message. But to the request itself, I'm going to step over here and explain the sign to you. So, yep, now that we're up. So if you've been down Johnson Ferry Road at any time, you've probably seen this sign. This is the current sign. It's a large monument sign that has been there for quite some time. And you can see the existing static message board that you change the message by manually and by hand. This signage has been in place for quite some time. It's also a beautiful signage, monument sign in terms of how it looks. The brick and the top and everything else is large. It's within county code as it was built at the time, but also keeping in mind that the frontage of the church property extends for hundreds and hundreds of feet along Johnson Ferry Road, which is a divided major parkway within Cobb County with speeds exceeding 45 miles per hour. So it is important for them to have signage that can at least be visible to those who's intended for at this busy stretch of road along Johnson Ferry. So what the proposal is to do is to remove the interior part of the sign and convert it to electronic signage. Now, the variance as it relates to the proposed increase from 32 square feet to the 60 square feet only involves the message board part of the electronic signage, which is what's been highlighted here for you, where it says JFCA inside the signage cabinet. What that's meant to do is mirror the amount of square footage that the current message board has. The current message board is 60 square feet of sign area here, and it's simply being replaced by the proposed electronic signage of the same size, just simply trying to match even with even and good with good. The remaining portion of the sign, while electronic, will not be the messaging part, and it would remain static, as you can see here. So this is the part we are speaking to when we are requesting a variance to allow for the allowable square footage to be increased from 32 square feet to 60 square feet. The other variances being requested simply apply to the existing sign in terms of its height and messaging and so forth, and don't, really aren't triggered by anything other than us in Johnson Ferry Baptist Church looking to change their existing sign, and that would, and that's where that falls in. Always one of the questions that comes up in a variance is, then, well, why don't you just meet the sign code? It says 32 square feet. Why not meet that? You can see the size of the existing monument sign, reducing their message area to half of what it is today, to a mere 32 square feet of signage area. Just isn't, number one, it's not sufficient for their purposes, but number two, and far more importantly, it wouldn't look right if you want to use this existing monument sign, the design, how it would appear, it would be dwarfed and wouldn't be effective at all. If they're required to convert, if they want to convert to electronic signage and have to meet the term of the ordinance of 32 square feet total, they're better off just simply taking it down and building a sign around 32 square feet that fits and reflects that, as opposed to having the current monument sign. But from our standpoint, not only would that be a waste to take this beautiful sign monument down, it's just unnecessary. I mean, this is along a very busy road, and we think what we're proposing is just trying to exchange like for like and follow the remaining dictates of the sign ordinance themselves as it reflects and represents electronic signage. Per the ordinance, electronic signage must be dimmed and have a dimming feature, whereas the sign brightness of the sign is dimmed in accordance with the ambient light. So during the brightness of the day is when it's brighter. As dusk approaches, it continues to dim down to match the ambient light that is also dimming until it's at its lowest setting at night. So that's one aspect that's inside the ordinance and embedded in a requirement. One of the other requirements is that there is actual light calculations. There's metrics that provide that the light from electronic signage can only be so bright according to how you measure light and brightness according to light candles. And so you must meet those brightness requirements and maximums according to the ordinance. And if you don't, there's a process even specified in the ordinance that says if you're not meeting those, the county can come out, make you turn the sign off, and then make you go back and demonstrate that you're meeting those limitations on how bright the sign can be. It also doesn't allow, per county ordinance, you can't have flashing, and you can't have flashing components, and you can't have, when you change the messages, you can't have them screaming off of one and coming into the other. So you cannot have that level of motion within the sign itself. Electronic messaging, that's also part of the ordinance for obvious reasons. You don't want electronic signage to be a distraction to people driving in their car. So when it changes from a static message and rotate to another static message. In addition, the changing of the messaging can only occur no less than every 10 seconds. So those things are set, so it's not simply rotating, again, causing a disturbance as it relates to visual interference with drivers, and so it cannot be set where it rotates or changes that message more than every 10 seconds. Again, those are protections embedded in your ordinance. Wanted to review those just for those who may not be aware of what actually the ordinance provides in terms of the controls on electronic messaging. Now, we have had a lot of discussions. You do see that we have opposition, but we've had a lot of discussions that we've had in looking at this signage and trying to see how we might compromise as it relates to our proposal and the proposal from the church. We would be willing to reduce the requested square footage from the requested 60 to a maximum of 50 square feet as a compromise position for us in terms of this request. And so if that helps this board reach a positive resolution and decision on this request, the church has come forward with that compromise position requesting no more than 50 square feet for the electronic messaging portion of the sign. And otherwise, the sign would then be will be in compliance with your electronic sign ordinances, and with the additional 2 variances, then that just allows this existing sign to remain in place. I'm here, representatives from Johnson Ferry Baptist Church are here as well. We'd be more than happy to answer any questions that you may have and respectfully request your approval of this variance request, taking into consideration our compromise as well to the 50 square feet instead of 60. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody have any questions? I thought is there opposition? Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't see him get up when they swore him in. Because they swore him in once, they didn't swear him in the second time. They swore him in once for everything probably, so I didn't see her come up at all.
Good afternoon. I'm Jacqueline Bettadapur, an East Cobb Civic Association board member and the case manager for V48. I also happen to live within a mile or so of Johnson Ferry Baptist Church and drive this stretch of road at least or more than a dozen times every week. So the ECCA has submitted comments to the Board of Zoning Appeals via an email sent on April 6th last week. And I ask that the county clerk please put those comments in the official record for these proceedings. The ECCA is recommending denial of V48. We do not believe there is truly a hardship upon which a variance should be granted, and the large digital sign that is proposed will be a disturbance to nearby residents and passing motorists on Johnson Ferry Road. The applicant claims that the existing ground-based monument cannot be used for a code-compliant digital sign, yet the proposal is to remove the current sign and replace it with a digital sign within the existing monument structure. The monument's surface area is more than large enough to accommodate a code-compliant digital sign, and from what I hear today, it's just a question of design, and I think certainly the design can be reworked to make it visually attractive and still be code compliant. The applicant goes on to say that a smaller sign, and I quote, could not be viewed or read as easily by travelers along Johnson Ferry Road, end quote. Basically, the applicant just wants it bigger than the 10 code-compliant digital signs that are in existence on Johnson Ferry Road between Lower Roswell Road and Roswell Road. So there are a number of digital signs that are code-compliant on this stretch of road. The code specifies a maximum of 32 square feet, and as a point of reference, that would be an 8-foot by 4-foot sign or a 6-foot by 5-foot sign that would get you to 30 square foot. They are asking for nearly double that at 60 square feet. So essentially, they want to replace the current whiteboard with the same size digital sign. A digital sign, however, would be brighter than the existing whiteboard sign because light is emanating out of a digital sign. The existing whiteboard is lighted by spotlights shining in at the sign that are not on, obviously, during the day. The current sign is not backlit as stated in the application. Thus, a digital sign would create a greater visual disturbance, particularly at night, for the surrounding residential properties and drivers passing by on Johnson Ferry. So this stretch of Johnson Ferry Road is a step-down transition zone between two intense commercial activity areas, the one being on Roswell Road and Johnson Ferry Road, and the other being on Lower Roswell Road and Johnson Ferry Road. And Johnson Ferry Baptist Church is in the middle of all of that. The Solana and the Arbor Terrace, which are two senior residential properties, are catty-corner to this church across the street, less than 1,000 feet away from this sign. There's also a single-family home, owner-occupied, less than 500 feet from the Johnson Ferry Baptist Church sign on the same side of the street. So as well as many other residential areas just off Johnson Ferry Road behind the low-rise offices, which are across the street from the church. So recognition of the transitional nature and residential mix of this area was acknowledged in stipulations offered and agreed to by the Credit Union of Georgia in OB 3 2019, requiring that their digital sign go dark between the hours of 11 p.m. and 5 a.m. And they also are in close proximity to the Solana, the senior residential facility. So directly across the street from the church is a code-compliant digital sign for Atlanta Oral and Facial Surgery that is voluntarily turned off at night. I drove by there after 11 p.m. on Monday night, and that sign was dark. So both of those signs, Credit Union of Georgia and the oral surgery sign, are code compliant in terms of the 32 square feet. So contrary to the hardship claimed by the applicant, a 32 square foot digital sign does have the ability to push out a lot more information with eye-catching graphics and LED illumination, making it a more effective communication tool than the current whiteboard, and diminishing the need for a large surface area equivalent to the existing whiteboard with removable letters. A digital sign does not need to be as big. A 32 square foot code compliant sign would limit the visual disturbance while still remaining an effective communication tool, as evidenced by all the other code compliant signs on Johnson Ferry Road. So finally, if this board gives legitimacy to the claim of hardship by granting this variance, we are concerned that this opens the door for other churches, and there are many in the area, institutions and businesses to follow suit, resulting in an explosion of large digital signs in this area. So in conclusion, finding no hardship and out of concern for visual disturbance for the nearby residences, two senior living facilities, and drivers along Johnson Ferry Road, the ECCA recommends denial of the variance for a 60 square foot electronic digital sign. If Johnson Ferry Baptist Church installs a digital sign, any digital sign, the ECCA recommends that it go dark between the hours of 11 p.m. and 5 a.m. to reduce visual disturbances to nearby residents and senior residential facilities. So I'll be happy to answer any questions. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. You can be seated. Thank you. Does anybody have any? Was there more than one person in opposition? I didn't hear it. Is she? Okay, all right. Thanks, Sandra. All right, does anybody have any questions?
So I've done a lot of, I drive on this road every day, many times a day, looking at the sign. Further down Johnson Ferry, there is another sign at a church that is catty-corner to a residential housing that has been approved, and I believe that was 35 feet. And it is colorful, and it rotates and moves within the correct code. And there's various other signs as you go down Johnson Ferry that are digital. So when it comes down to the hardship, number one, there are a lot of digital signs on Johnson Ferry. It's a very traveled road. It's very large. and it moves way past the speed limit. But, so looking at what the hardship of this sign location, the sign as it currently is built, and it's been there for decades, is 35 feet from the road. So all the other digital signs that are on the road have a closer road frontage than this sign. And I think that this, to me, is a hardship in that the way it sits on the road, the distance from the drivers on all lanes. I think that it could go smaller, but I really think that it's a hardship and therefore needs to be more visible. I don't want to see the situation where they take down this current signage. It fits with the church. The church is a very ornate and massive building, very well done. It's been there for long before I was here. And I think that this fits in very well, and it would be, I think, an eyesore if it was taken down to accommodate a smaller sign. So with that, I'm ready to make my motion. If anybody has anything that they would like to discuss, or after I make my motion. Okay, I'm ready to make my motion. So I make my motion that that we allow the signage to be 50 square feet, and that all of the code that goes along with electronic reader boards be in compliance. I know that there is, on Cobb County Code, it's a 10-second rotation, and I add a stipulation to have it a 20-second rotation, so it's not flipping. So that's stipulation number 2. And my third stipulation is that it goes dark from 11 p.m. to 5 a.m. Yes, Mr. Peterson?
Can we just clarify one thing about your motion? The first thing that you stated regarding the 50 square feet, could we just clarify that's for variance request number 3 to increase the maximum size of the electronic message portion from 32 square feet to 50 square feet?
Yes, I'm sorry.
Okay.
So it would be increase the maximum size from the 32 to 50 square feet.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, is everyone?
Second.
Thank you. Place your vote. Passes. Ms. Swanson made the motion, Mr. Malone seconded, and it passed it 4-0. Yeah, and Alice has recused herself from summer hour. So, we are good. Good, everybody? Okay. All right, we finished our regular case agenda. We've got our usual housekeeping. Has everyone had time to review minutes? And I will entertain a motion to approve.
I make a motion that we approve the minutes from March 15th, 2023.
I second.
And we have the April 10. Do we have a motion to approve April 10?
I make a motion to approve the minutes for April 10th.
I second it.
Second it. All right, in favor? Vote. Passes 4-0. And do we have a motion to adjourn?
I make a motion that we adjourn.
Second?
Second.
Thanks. All right.
So there's all part of our code, everything. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, I didn't realize it. I looked at